Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the World of Sasquatch. This episode is being filmed on 5/17/25. We're still here at Spirit Lake, folks. Chad Wagner here with me, right here in the shop. We're outside at the fire pit here. So if it starts to get a little dark, that means the light's going down a little bit. Maybe I have to feed the fire during this, but hopefully I don't get burned by these embers coming at me. But this is going to be a very interesting episode. I wanted to do this by firelight, and we'll hope that these don't hit me while I'm doing this. But this is more of an experiment to try it outside like this, and you're hearing animal noises in the background too. So we'll see how well this actually does. So now today, I have some more questions from before on the great seeding, things of that nature. But before we even start, I now open this circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas of this moment in time. And now, Joanna, you're close here. You can do the love one this time.
Okay. We are all one, and when one is harmed, all is harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda, so that we may have this conversation in great understanding. And we ask for malevolent or mischievous beings to be swept away right now, so that we can have this conversation in peace. And with that, and with great blessings that we always send your way, we say so be it.
And so be it. So, this is going to be very interesting. The one that is speaking today is Segron himself. So, I was asking which one of the forest people wanted to talk. It was Rashum earlier, and now it's Segron. He is literally the chieftain of this place, the Spirit Lake. So it's going right?
Yes.
Okay. So want to make sure, because none of us can see the other end of this. You're literally, I'm just seeing a partial phone in the dark here against the firelight. So that's all I'm seeing right now, folks. So wanted to make sure.
I'm making sure you guys are lit up enough.
Yeah, and making sure that thing doesn't stop. Yes.
Yeah, we don't want to be too lit up.
Nope, it looks good. I think it looks good.
We would fry our nads off out here from this fire that's right here. So, just saying. Okay, Segron, if you would please. Oh, put the foot a little lower. Okay. And the calm was disrupted a little while ago with some garbage chemming and some microwaving, but this should suffice now that you guys are back here. Lake Wakama has some spraying going on. We tend to push away such things here. Our aim, let's just say, ends at Wakama. Or further back from Wakama. That's somebody else's turf over there. So we are here now speaking about, I know you had more on the great seeding and other questions regarding this, but I will say one thing. When you are in an environment when you're seeing some of the chemming spraying going on, and you start to feel a little of the creepy thoughts or the wobbliness or the madness. He would say they showed this in X-Files too, where they sprayed and people went mad. This is essentially what's going on. So it affects us too, but it's only if we get close enough into your frequency. You guys are fine at the moment. It just, you felt it in that area of Lake Wakama. I will say that it's not just localized to that. It was more the area where you guys were discussing where it would drift to another area. They mark it and then they allow it to drift. We completely disapprove of all of this, but like you were saying in private, they write in Roman numerals and such in the sky to mark an area. This I will try to minimize embers and bugs and things of this nature while this is going on. They tend to listen to me a little bit, so I will go into questions if you wish.
Sure. So to continue with the questions regarding the great seeding, just to kind of again go over it, what races contributed to the great seeding, to the formation of the earth that we know it now, and why? What was the purpose?
The races that contributed to the great seeding might surprise you. Ours, of course, now that doesn't really surprise. This was actually a little before my time, but it was in Telnorsicus, some of Telnorsicus's, but we also had other our souls and consciousnesses around as well. I mean, he was around at the time of the Orion Wars, but at the same time, of course, there were consciousnesses and souls that lived before then. There were some cat people, dog people, the Nordic types, mainly human-looking people, both also cat and dog and Lyran, as well as bug races. The bugs contributed certain insect life, like also the frog that you hear in the background. Frog races, like Joyce's people, contributed to beings like those. I will speak a little louder because those particular beings are quite loud. They are. We're trying to get him to quiet down just a little bit for the moment. There we go. It's not necessarily just a mating call. It's the fact that they like it out at the moment. But there are mating calls they are doing too currently. But Joyce's people, the Ligurians, did contribute, and other frog races contributed to the great seeding. Tumbans contributed land masses like what became Japan and also parts of Mu and Lemuria. And also, eventually, Asgard contributed Atlantis. And so this is also how some of these land masses came together, is Pangaea. What you know of as Pangaea was broken up into other areas as well. Australia is a piece of Lemuria, as well as Micronesia. Non-Medal, Micronesia, the outer edge of it. People consider that the tip of Mu, but that is actually part of it, and Australia is the rest of that. Then you had tribes that came together in Europe that were of both from that side, and then the ones that were mentioned earlier, the Malungans, were the mixes of the two in North America. The races back then that seeded, you saw in the movie 65, where he came to Earth, the character came to Earth in ships that were essentially like stasis ships. That is actually accurate. There was a time where that was needed. After a while, that was not needed. Traveling through the firmament and traveling through time-dilated areas between planets is quite tricky. And if you're not using frequency-based tech, it is actually quite difficult to manage without having a time delay in there. But this was only for a short period of time, relatively, and they went into frequency tech. But later on in your history, of course, some of this was lost by the time Atlantis was around because some of the resources were not present any longer. And they went back to rocketry type tech after a while. That's why you saw there's statues of astronauts and things of this nature. Some are from other timelines, other time frames. Others are from your own, and others are from the future kind, leaving their own mark on history. Some of the Orions with the Orion Codex materials, and other things of that nature. So, what other questions you have?
So, and I think it was mentioned before, but I think if you could re-clarify those mantis people, what exactly, where were they from, and and they brought the little mantids?
What happened is all the races seeded some sort of animal life from their own worlds,
Mm-hmm.
and the mantises, that particular variety, yes, there are some from primordial Earth, or what you call primordial Earth. They added after they eliminated the dinosaurs, they added in other insect life and other lizard life, things of that nature. They added in other elements of their own worlds. They kept other things like crocodiles and alligators and creatures like that and other bugs. But the mantises wanted to actually have an encampment on Earth as well, just like the rest of the races did. So what they did was the original variety could not step foot on the Earth because of the fact that the atmosphere was quite different. They knew if they created a variety that were here, they could possibly either do some kind of body transfer or they just have their species continue. Much to their chagrin, it formed an animal species, like your praying mantis. And they were not quite pleased with this. They attempted several times to wipe it out and start over, but it didn't take. Eventually something did. This is what was not told to you. Some of the mantis type of beings you are seeing are ones from here that have been slowly genetically altered by other mantis people out in space for quite some time. Those are the ones in the swamps. They are essentially alien. They left and went back out from there. But they are the ones that can come and go from the swamps, or ones that had the alterations or that from the Great Seeding time frame. Most of the mantid species of that type actually can travel back and forth between Earth and out there because of this, because of that change. They figured that they introduced that back then, but the thing of it is, there really isn't a natural selection that way because there's still little praying mantises everywhere that really didn't change. But other ones were grabbed and altered. They kept the animal species and they kept the altered one. And the altered one is mainly what people are seeing in some cases in the swamps. You also have your marauder variety, he calls them. These are also ones that abduct people, and you see them as almost like the Walmart greeter of alien abductions, where they're ushering people and their guards to other gray species and such, like Ebens and some Orions. But then also they are sometimes the ones that are guiding the little gray, both robots and the little ones, hiring them out. He would say in Doctor Who there was an arachnus type being that actually had gray robots going around spying for her, that queen spider being. That happens to be a true concept that they were showing in that, where the character of Donna pulls the Santa hood off and it's a gray robot. Excuse me. But with this, the marauder type of mantids are mainly the ones people are seeing in abductions, and they will also go out into the swamps. They're the same species, but they also have two classes. Whereas you have these guard-like ones that are guarding certain people. They're hired as guards by other races, and then kind of like the Vikings of their world, but bugs. Like the Vikings were hired out to different kingdoms and such because they were great warriors and caravan guards. So, you have the Lankaneer elves that do that as well, like Klingons almost. And then you have these other types that actually have Klingon ridges. Those are like your Metatronic types ones, and you see those ancient pictures of like a Worf type of looking person. They said it was supposed to be Saint Nicholas, but it looked like Worf. That's more one of those elf types. That's where they got the idea for the Klingons, that those species, a few of like the Sumerian kingdoms and Middle Eastern and Viking. But with the bugs, you're seeing two different classes of them. This is why people can't measure where they are in the whole scale of things. You have also the ones that want to lord over people too, like you saw in your Wi-Fi episode where they were all buff looking. None of them look that way. I want to say there are also the types that look like the girl from Guardians of the Galaxy that looks almost oriental but with the antennae. And then there's also ones that are there are some that also are insectoid, like you expect the ones with the mandibles, but they also can disguise themselves as regular humans walking amongst you. They have language barrier issues and things of that nature. They usually disguise themselves as foreigners. These are all results of the Great Seeding, but it happened so long ago, some of them don't remember. There are archives out in the galaxy of the Great Seeding, but past a burn time frame, some of the records were lost, except for that on Earth. The records are quite intact on Earth. This is also why some of the races are in a hurry to get Earth back out there, because all this gets linked up to the galactic hub, and the rest is history. So, other questions?
Well, just because you're talking about ancient history actually being intact, do you mean the Earth Akashic record, or do you mean, what about, how far back does the Vatican Library go?
That one actually goes back to when Caesar created it by stealing records from the library at Alexandria and burning it to the ground. They realized that Rome could lord over people if they took innovative knowledge from people. Akhenaten before him was attempting to link people up to a one God type religion. This is why you're seeing Christianity take over a lot now, because they are switching back from some of the New Age back to Christianity to be able to do the New World Order religion, but it will not work. They've tried it several times throughout history since Rome, but the library itself goes back to the halls of Atlantis. And at that time, they had a great library, magnificent library, and eventually their styles turned into more of the churchy styles. So what you're seeing with Rome, with the church style and everything, with cathedral looks, these are some of the Atlantean looks, along with your kind of like your Greek Roman temple look. This is why Caesar saw the importance of building over a PowerPoint, knowing that a library and archive had to survive whether the empire did or not. And it had to stay alive in some way, shape, or form to be able to utilize that later on as a galactic federation. He didn't know this then. Other beings did, though, and guided that hand a little bit. Meanwhile, regular humans killed off some of the more badasses like Akhenaten and them. Though that was first, some people thought that he was just one of the engineers that altered the pyramids at Post Atlantis, with engineering skills and everything. No, he was more Orion, kind of second class Orion. And there are others with elongated skulls that look similar. It's hard sometimes to tell them apart. And no, Isaac, they don't all look alike. But in this, sometimes, yeah, that's more true. With the mantids, it's a little tougher, but in some cases, it's very tough with them. To even know the gender difference with them. But even same difference. They're all like clones of each other. No wonder they want to become human. But with that library then becomes the Earth registered archive for the Galactic Federation in this sector. You need an archive. Just like a president always gets a library after their president, it's kind of similar, but it's a requirement to get into the Galactic Federation. You got to remember, the Kabbalists and the Nishwabenlanders and them are trying to get Earth to the minimum point, or the minimum requirement. Just like if you're applying for a credit card or some kind of loan or something, you have to have a minimum requirement to do it. Very similar, but they're just trying to get one of the points was an archive, a really big one, and that's the Vatican Library, miles and miles and miles.
Okay. I'm gonna, let's see, I think I'm gonna, excuse me, sorry to put that right in your face. I'm gonna move on to some other different types of questions for now. One of them, again, was related to the portal here, the portal vortex. Does it ever rotate, turn on or off at certain times of the year, or is it more active certain times of year?
It does rotate. It's not really off per se, but there are times where it is stronger, like around Halloween. It is actually quite potent, because that's a potent time of year where all portals and vortexes everywhere flare up and flame on pretty much over excitedly. And that's why you get bleed throughs from other dimensions and everything, kind of like your conjunction of the spheres from where things align, but in a more chaotic way, where things are opening all over the damn place. You have beings that are from all over, and the bad guys can't exactly adapt quickly on their feet. This is why humans and ourselves must during that time of year. It's a wonderful time of year, but it can be a very chaotic time of year. Does it rotate? Yes. Differently under the water than above? Yes. As Rashum said earlier, yes, it's like that Pirates of the Caribbean scene where it flips, but it's also different rotating rates at different times of the year too, where it's more potent, like on Halloween, you have your winter solstice, and also the PowerPoints times of the year, give or take the cross quarters by which your church threw off the different records. But it does indeed fluctuate to be more potent or less potent. And if somebody were in the right frequency, of course, they'd be able to pass through very, very easily through that portal in around that time of year. Also, if you went under the water and went through it that way, you'd come back up amongst us in our frequency dimensional space.
So that's kind of interesting, because Chad was saying that he takes this little boat, sometimes is out there, just sitting in the boat, just sitting in the water looking up to the sky. Does he have anything to worry about?
No, not exactly, unless you have some mischievous fae that likes to tip boats over and throw you in. Beyond that, then they have thought of this several times. In fact, we thought of it several times, in fact, but where a couple of our people just kind of went doot, 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 and wanted to sneak up and dump you in, but from underneath the boat, and some have. Some forest people have grabbed boats from underneath and thrown people in the water before. Some of my people find it funny. Granted, it scared the crap out of whoever it happened to, because we weren't always visible when it happened, but that we were heard making the sounds. We weren't always visible. There are cases out there, very few of them, where somebody saw a forest person come up under and tip them. They find it funny. It's kind of like the proverbial cow tipping of our world, but like you would scare the crap out of somebody. This is why. So this is what occurred there. But yes, there's really nothing to worry about at all, aside from the occasional fey practical jokes.
So I'm going to interrupt right now because our lighting is going on the camera. Do we have any more?
Yes, I have more firewood.
I will just take a little quick,
Okay.
We'll just sit here for a second and get some more firewood.
We have tons more.
This is our experiment. That's great, yeah. That's,
Challenge it.
yeah. Okay, sorry about that.
Speaking of time delaying, you might notice moving away from here and coming towards here, there might be a bit of a weird lurch in time sometimes. It depends on the time of year, as I said before. Around your holiday season is when it's the most potent. Halloween being the biggest, and tapering off, going to the winter solstice a little bit. But in that particular time of year, the Samhain, or you call it the Samhain or Halloween, you say pumpkin spice time frame. That's when weird people come out to play during that time in more ways than one. In some of this area too, I might add. But not that we would know or be spying on people at all. But anyway, the time delays, you'll notice that it's a weird after effect. Some people have mistaken it for missing time. And in some cases, yes, there's dimensional abductions and whatnot, where you're put back in within the same few moments of being abducted. Like, he equates it to somebody crossing the street, getting halfway, and then all of a sudden they have no memory of how they got halfway to the front. He equated that to a crosswalk, like when he got injured, kind of thing. But it was that kind of thing. Like he was interdimensional when he had his near-death experience. It's similar process, but in this process, it is literally reverbs from a PowerPoint, such as here at Spirit Lake.
Okay. Do you have, before I ask something totally different, do you have any more questions?
I have a question. Sagron, how do you feel about where the neighbors cleared like hundreds of acres adjacent to Spirit Lake?
Us and the Fae did not care for this taking place. You were correct, they did sell this off to make some money, and the Fae were very, very despondent. The good ones. The other ones move on. Other types, like the dryadic forms that are in the trees, they will move, the energies will move on to like here. And the Fae that came from over there came here for more refuge. There's twice as many tree Fae as there were because of this. They are less than pleased. We are less than pleased. This took place. We were very unhappy and slightly despondent, depending on who you spoke to. I was unpleased, but can it be regrown again in the future? Yes, of course. Other trees can be planted there. It's just we like the thick overgrowth. We prefer this, and it's like that scene in your Harry and the Hendersons where he goes in all the forest in the series, that is, where there is like his forest has been cut down and he has that visceral reaction. In the TV series, the movie, he went back and it was fine, and he went back with his forest people family. The series, he went back and the forest was cut down. So that the reaction he had was of despondency. That's how we reacted, and that's how the Fae really, really reacted. Granted, they can be extremely dramatic at times, but this was warranted. We say anhalum, but in this case, them losing their shit basically was warranted. So this is what happened when that happened.
Right, yes. I was despondent somewhat also because I didn't like to see, the huge amount of trees cut down adjacent to Spirit Lake. However, Spirit Lake trees are safe, and we try to be conscious of what gets cut and doesn't here.
Yes, this is good. That can be regrown and reclaimed. It would take quite some time, but it can be done. Eventually, that will take place, and we will stretch further outward so that does not happen a second time.
Okay. Any other questions about here before I change the subject?
I'm good.
You're good? Okay. So this is an interesting question. It says I'm going to just read how it was written. Your people said that the national parks were protected spaces, positive, in fact, but what about the negative uses of them? And or, as Chad brought up as well, that, a lot of those places are where seemingly abductions even occur.
Yes, he always cites the case where in Yosemite there was a jogger that leaned against a rock wall and fell in, and there were grays inside of a hollowed out space. It was a holographic space that they dropped in there with their technology. It's the whole TARDIS thing where it's bigger on the inside kind of deal. We've been in craft like this where it's a little orbital type ones where it's bigger on the inside. That's where the TARDIS got the idea. They got the idea for Doctor Who from that, and Valiant Thor with Doctor Strange. But with this, what happens in the national parks is, yes, people are taken abducted into bases, traded to AET races. We see this happen. We can't hardly sometimes do anything. Some of our other more de-evolved type brethren, like face eaters and such, and trolls, do participate in grabbing people. Sometimes they're actually taken by them for food, like Draco and them. But like in your movie Dr. Sleep, where there were those vampire type beings in caravans, Stephen King was correct in this, because in the book, the character of Danny fights the character of Rose in the Grand Canyon and in the national parks. This is what your Stephen King was trying to warn in his disclosure of that. With that is the one bit of information he got correct, was this. You'll find that the Here Missing 411 has discovered that underground bases are within all the national parks. There's bases from coast to coast, like his grandfather would tell you if he were around, which he has come and gone since you guys have been here. His grandparents have. This is quite disturbing to us. There are things that are protected, like node points, but unfortunately, when we see people taken, we can't always get to it because the forest people are also under some of these branch treaties. We do help quite a bit, and that we are despondent that the military keeps showing themselves as us, and we have been accused of doing these abductions because people can't tell us apart from, no offense to them, they wouldn't know the database that's out there. They don't tell us apart from certain types of dogmen, certain types of goat people, certain types of bear-like ones that are actually quite dangerous, the bear squatches, and some satiric life forms. Satirical would be probably, or satirical would be more accurate. They look like walking cartoons, but in this, the national parks actually can be very dangerous at certain times of year, but they're also protected spaces as far as like how vortexes, vertices, and portals types are. And bases do build around portals usually. This is why last time you had some harassment with military the last time, but they won't come near here. We protect this one. We're like, no, this is ours, has been for centuries, long before you guys were born kind of thing. And they leave us alone for the most part. They tried every now and again, but you will find where there is a big power point, portals from either also Atlantis or Lemurian time frames. There is military not too far behind it, or some ancient city like in your Grand Canyon. There's a Lemurian city actually within your Grand Canyon. Your author Mary Summerrain wrote about this place specifically, and also others believed, like people like Alexander Helios and others that were he was the son of Antony and Cleopatra, took a fleet there. That's not a legend, that happened back in that time frame. I was alive, remember. And other races came to North America and left their mark. They don't want people finding this history, or because when they do, they'll find people like us. They will and reconnect to us. This is fought quite heavily with your deep state and your New Schwabenland, or all of this. Your Cabal and New Schwabenland are separate clans or factions. But with that is the with the national parks, that does happen. He even had a dream sequence where he saw two people in a canoe being followed by guys that were in the Grand Canyon that were wearing Sasquatch outfits, which we were abhorrent to this. But if any of our people attack those military people, your military come after us in droves for contract violations and such. We do help out where we can, like if we go and just act like we've coughed or something and something happens. We've done that too, or go boogie 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 and scare people out of places, even if they are near a colony. Of course, our people push them out. But we'll do things like that to help out, and eventually they stop. But also, he saw two ghosts of two women that were in a bathroom building in one of your national parks, and they saw this red-eyed being coming at them. That was a stage crafting, just like that dogman he saw in the little 3-window in your Granville Prescott Valley bedroom, and then he just saw boot marks on the pavement outside. That was not a dogman, that was your military stage crafting. This happens quite a bit, and we have been blamed for disappearances left and right. Your David Paulides actually tried to speak on this, and it was eventually taken off the internet because also there was Mandela effecting going on. That originally you saw in your Knightdale, North Carolina at the time, that he said that in his book he mentioned us being the main abductors of people. Then it vanished to Mandela effecting. That's because it was a timeline change. We also did not care for the fact that that was a temporal variation in this timeline cluster. But I can view this myself like he can. But the point of the matter is, that is the negative side where people are taken. We're blamed sometimes also, especially around your Dulce. That's why there's weird animals and weird things where people are taken there quite a bit. There's some things that escape. Sometimes they let things out to confuse people. Your Plum Island is one of these places where they do experiments as well. where they'll get things dimensionally and grab them too. You saw in your movie or your show, The Man in the High Castle, where people would jump in from other universes and dimensions, and they would end up in like a Nazi facility. That was actually a true depiction where sometimes things bleed through from other dimensions, like on a place like that island, and if there's an intersection point there. This is why your deep state wants to control these intersection points, because they know things warp in from time to time. In your Antarctica, there were some giants there were Jotun that were in a stasis chamber. They woke there, and they immediately got taken out, unfortunately. That is after their DNA was taken. But so that they could try to rebuild or create new ones. But I won't go into that nonsense, but just know that is the darker side of these protected areas. It's more the yield, you would call it the 100 years disclosure contract or narrative. It's more of a yielding going on. I disapprove 110%.
Okay, let me see this next one. Let's see. This is, oh, okay. So I think we got everything off the list. So I find it's amazing that you have seen history like you have seen history. It's really, it is far beyond my imagination to understand this. So again, just to give perspective, I was telling Chad in the car, because you were around when folks actually, Lemuria and Atlantis, and when people were getting along before it completely fell apart.
That's where your Tower of Babel story came from.
Correct. So I find that's interesting because, again, there's certain pieces of history that still get woven into something. That is true, but people, still ponder its meaning. But this is a literal moment where you had multiple races who may have spoken their own language or whatever, but there was the technology of universal translators around. So everyone understood one another.
Yes.
And then when the Great Wars happened, the brothers were fighting, and the seepage, let's say, of the Orion mind messing, and all of that caused great wars to occur. Then it was Chris and my understanding that, again, the technology fell. I mean, they're searching all the time for old technology that maybe they can reboot that they can't ever reboot, but some of it is from that time.
Yes, not all of it is gone. There are some remnants of those technologies in isolated areas of the planet. There's also in your Alaska, there's that Alaska pyramid that is up there. That is a major piece of technology that has been reactivated from that particular time, not the time of the seeding, the times of Atlantis and Lemuria. That is a fusion piece of technology from both. You guys were talking about pyramids before. Do they all have inner workings underneath them, very much like the power plant in Egypt? Yes, they do. Some are in other dimensional states, some are physical in yours. Some have records, some do not. Some have instruction manuals, some do not. They were power plants all over the planet. Some were made in mimicry of ones that came before, by people that just were mimicking what was around, like your cargo cult of the Philippines, whereas they were mimicking U.S. soldiers and such. This did happen with more primitive culture. I say primitive, that's derogatory. Just at a different stage of development, intellectual development, spiritual development. Some of the other races tried not to interfere with that as much as possible. You saw this in your Star Trek Voyager with those natives that were mimicking Seven of Nine and all this other stuff, and Chakotay with the tattoo. That actually happened from time to time. We tried to minimize that type of contact attempt. But what took place was there's some interference. Okay. We're trying to minimize this on you guys at the moment. It's safe in here, but at the same time, there are some things that get into the head a little bit. Saturation of the energy will prevent this. But can you repeat your question?
Oh, no. Well, basically, we were tying in a bunch of things, tying in that some of the great technology that people were mimicking, the pyramids, how they were made, what they were being used for. But and that's wonderful.
Power plants. There's also remnants of Atlantis, like your Bermuda Triangle,
Right.
and your Dragon's Triangle are rips and tears from the war between the bombs and rockets they used were of a nuclear fashion. This is where you get vitrified stone, like in your Celtic Isles and British Isles, where there was an explosion that you saw the vitrified drippage going away from Atlantis. The main explosion was in the Eye of Sahara, where Enlil dropped one of the biggest nuclear explosions your planet has ever seen.
So your people were present, you know, in these areas. So what we were told, and so since you were there, you know, living through those times, that what happened was basically all of the technology was being destroyed. The Tower of Babel fell.
Yes.
Because the technologies came down.
Yes, the one you call Nimrod, that's more of a universal term. You think it means stupid, which you are correct, because they wanted to be in communication with the gods. They were communicating through time, both dimensionally with the women of Atlantis, going through a skull edifice, and the scientists. They merged them into one, and they began to become transhumanistic. And the Tower of Babel, that you would call it, it was no different than your translator nanos, that bots that were in your Farscape series, where they could understand each other. They went in
Right.
through the feet. This was accurate in the series, where Jim Henson showed them going in through the feet. Poseidon / Enki participated in this whereas they had a Matrix thing going on. This is why many people debate the movie The Matrix, that they were showing that the last time they were free and open was the times of Atlantis, 10,000 plus years before. They actually didn't know what year it actually was, because they kept repeating things over and over again in wash, rinse, and repeat.
Mm-hmm.
And they even showed Monica Bellucci's character with vampires in it, and she said that was from a previous version of The Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
The Matrix, the real Matrix, was on Atlantis because they plugged themselves in through the feet, the foot spikes. You know who is the architect for these foot spikes? Poseidon.
Oh, really?
So
I
this
don't
is
like
what
him, because I got hurt by those.
it's the Orions took this over. It was the Atlantean and Asgardianist homegrown version of that technology. The Orions were pretty much at fault for transmitting.
Mm-hmm.
Just like during the fall of Asgard, or the Ragnarok, where Odin succumbed to them, they eventually fell into a slovenly stage where they were all kind of fat and grotesque looking, and they snapped out of it after a while. Those two, Enki and Enlil, were retarded back then. They were so enamored with hitting each other, and squabbles over petty territories, petty disputes. People are in between. Others wanted worshippers. One wanted one of each other's worshippers. They began to absorb the worshipping energy, and eventually your Poseidon snapped out of it. He went under the sea, you see. So
the follow-up to that, because I think it's hard for people to understand the concept, that there was a time in our ancient history where there was multiple races staring each other in the face. Everyone was attempting to get along, but then between the Orion energy infiltrating to cause debauchery and the brothers fighting, let's just put it that way.
They caused fractures beyond belief with Atlantis. It's the same as your Dragon Break is in your Elder Scrolls lore, with the Numidium being set off. This is essentially that type level of technology, fractures where things were ises and is nots. And this is why there's Atlantis existing somewhere and somewhere not. It became fractured through the multiverse. This is what happened there. That was a major fracture point. Again, Bermuda Triangle. Think that.
So this is the one area I want your comment on, to try to tell the story and to forward it a little bit. So at the time, of the warring going on, the Tower of Babel fell. Individual races, let's say like your race, there had to be, there was this withdrawal to try to protect your own race, I'm assuming, at the time, and different people with, who survived the calamities, of course, withdrew themselves into different pockets, into different areas, either underground or something was happening so that they just survive with their race.
Yes, this is true, and also other frequencies. Poseidon is not wrong when he says, if you saw him, you would not recognize him, because he's had to adapt himself so inefficiently and efficiently at times. You would see him as more of a scaled fish-looking person at the moment, but he still has his beard and all this. But he looks more like the SpongeBob rendition of himself. Was the mer.
Right.
Type. He had to create some of the mer races, like they showed in the movie Aquaman. Whereas because of the disaster on Atlantis, some of them were able to breathe water, but he had to genetically modify him and his people to survive.
Right.
Into the depths of the sea, and the pockets. Some of the frequency differentials are because of the disaster of Atlantis. You remember being told that nuclear energy stretches into the dimensions and fractures things that you've never seen or heard of.
Right.
This is what happened during that time. This is why other races are so important to this. Your Oppenheimer and your Einstein getting this information about this came from Atlantis. Transhumanism comes from Atlantis. Those echoes through time were so powerful. They have rushed forward into a wash, rinse, and repeat of said events, even getting introduced with nuclear fusion. Just like Atlantis did, they reached through time, back to the times of the Ragnarok. They reached through to what they thought was great wisdom. They heard voices across the chasm. They heard pleas, just like you saw in your Zhang-Ji movie, where it was some demon in another dimension kind of thing. That's how it happened. They opened the door, not knowing what would step through. He had dreams of machine people walking on the bottom of the sea. This happened to be, they sunk to the bottom. They're metal. Like your Terminator Salvation. This is where Terminator comes from, where they converted a guy over from nanotech, from human flesh to Terminator. That was extremely accurate to Atlantis. The Terminator timeline is accurate to Atlantis. So this is a homegrown version of this, he likes to say. And this is where people are getting these ideas. Nuclear fusion, the way Oppenheimer, it just came to him. He was accessing the Akashic from that time frame. It was such a powerful event, the destruction of Atlantis, that it sent ripples and fractured waves through time. Others were all caught in different waves and different frequencies and could not reach this one anymore on Midgard. Some were stuck in other areas but could affect in other ways. Like from a mirror fractured dimension, they could interact. Like he saw in a Marvel video game one time, there was a being on the other side of a mirror talking to Captain America and Deadpool. It's the same thing, where they couldn't quite get here, but they sure as hell could convince somebody else to do something. And also your Draco do something similar, whereas their psionic abilities are limited because they are lizards. You are mammalian. You have a greater projector that they can misuse. You have a greater sense of imagination. You are a mixed race. Your Stargate SG-1 likes to say you are the fifth race. That's a load of horse crap. But you are a mix of different codes and talents and the Akashic records. When I said the Earth has all this intact, it is intact through you. It is intact, yes, deep in other dimensional spaces of the Earth, in technology that has been undamaged, unhurt, like last outposts, like you saw in your Thor Ragnarok, where you had other planets that had been Asgardian, but like the Forge and all this other stuff, or it was like that in your Infinity War and such, and Endgame. But with this, it's the same thing. There were other outposts. They even showed a demon destroying Asgard, and that was some of the reptilian and Orion forces coming in. That was actually accurate. Big horned demons, also winged angel looking beings and everything. But with this, the fracturing, still people are thinking they're getting this brilliant aha moment. He always hooked to the line, or also was drawn to the line in Terminator, where they said, you people think you're so brilliant coming up with this. Because they didn't. All ideas that people access are coming from either coming from their oversoul and the lives they've lived, because everything's happening at once, everything everywhere at once, because it's all running parallel and everything everywhere at once, or like Doctor Who says, wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff. In this, you're accessing all these things, and if you're coming up with an idea, you're really accessing somewhere else that you have been, and or what's in the Earth record. Oppenheimer and Einstein were accessing this area, even if they didn't completely realize it or understand it. The Nazis were also accessing it because of their link to the paranormal. But they knew also their link to the aliens. They knew it was something special from somewhere else, because on Atlantis, the same cult of the ladies of Atlantis that were like eventually became regurgitated as the Vril, and they were accessing the same information, even the same ETs that were out in the Aldebaran. And Orion. So it's the same thing, just many millennia later. History repeated itself.
Right. So when Chris and I, we call ourselves the lifting, and that was the Great Fall. So when we talk about, again, and you can tell us again whether we're accurate or not, a lot of many souls that are currently on Earth incarnated as humans right now, many of them were of those times, weren't they? Weren't there quite a group of people that come in now? Because my understanding is there really was a great fall from a unity that existed. They were trying to make it all work. Then this horrific warring and fall happened. And now the goal is to complete the circle or the unity loop, as you say, because now the goal is to come back out of it and experience what we have not experienced yet,
yes.
which is bringing about a great unity.
Yeah, or a great lifting, like what you would say. You bring about a great fall, you have to bring about a great lifting. It is essentially the yin and the yang. People like to say that things aren't in dualisms anymore, or if it was a dualistic seed that went to a singularity. Yes, this is true, but you are still existing in a temporal cluster, a timeline cluster of many dualisms in life. It's either a this or a that, or you either want to correct one thing and take away from another, etc., etc. Yes, you can manifest it all, but these things are still there. These are remnants from that time frame, by the way. Can you pass into a singularity within the temporal clusters? Yes, you can. But this is quickly approaching. You feel like things are speeding up because, yes, is the Earth moving a little faster than it did? Yes. Your Reagan came through in a channeling and said something similar to someone else. And I can back this up. And therefore, time would feel like it's speeding up, but also the timeline's interchanging more. It feels like things are speeding up. There are times where it'll feel like it slows down too as things adapt. This is just some changes that are going on, and this is the timeline jumping that's going on. There's nothing to be afraid of in this area. It just is something that you're not used to, but you recognize it from the ancient past. You believe that it is something great. It is something to be recorded and watched, because you were these people that recorded and watched these, like the Mayans in their calendar, or the Aztecs, or any of these races that stem from Lemuria and Atlantis. This is where you're getting it from, the ancient past. Undealt with past always looks like it's ahead of you, be it disastrous or not. If it's something disastrous that you're not dealing with, like an planet exploding or something, you think there's an Armageddon, it's really behind you. It happened to you already. You're just remembering it, and you're bringing it back in from the Akashic. You say Akashic grid, but
right.
This is how this operates.
So again, I think always wanting to leave a conversation for people that are lifting in an upliftment. I think again for a lot of people, certain things that they're coming to realization of, as you just said, it's not new. You know what I mean? I'm sorry to say, abductions have been going on for forever. There have been agreements made about that, unfortunately, and it hasn't.
You've been dead on the mark with this.
Yes, and these agreements go back a long ways. It's not current present moment. These things have been going on for a very long time. But again, I think, trying to, and again, asking you to give some perspective on where we're heading, because again, I think that I'm pretty optimistic about all of this. I know some people are afraid of AI and different things like that. And
it can benefit you if you teach it correctly.
Right.
If you nurture it and you don't allow the mistakes of the past to haunt you. You can literally take it in a different direction and not allow the signals of the past, the echoes of the past, the mistakes of your ancestors to haunt your future. unity is what's ahead of you. You're in a fork in a road right now where you could either slip into a new world order or you could slip into a unity. Prefer the latter and not the prior.
Exactly. And as you said,
Temporal mechanics or the timelines are favoring that.
and we have mammalian brains that can create and co-create together an energy that will help push it in that direction if we just decide that's what we want.
Yes, and also your resident dragon said, does this mean I have a pea brain? Yes, it does, because reptilians are not very imaginative, but dragonkind are titans, so I will give them that. I am talking about the ones that reek of sulfur and cat piss, and that is the Draco. So, including their royalty, I might add, they seem to enjoy smelling like a skunk, but a natural musk, as your Jakar character from Babylon 5 would say. Actually, it's much worse. It's like they've bathed in, oh God, what would you say? Just their own filth, pretty much, and it's disgusting, actually. I say this because I know at a distance people are listening to what I say, so I leave these on a laughter high point. Then others are saying to me, "Are you saying we bathe in our own feces?" Yes, I do. So even your royalty, you guys love sewers, you love tunnels, you love smelling like crap, and I'm going to leave it at that. But there are some species that it doesn't smell the same way. Well, like with insectoids. If you came up to one right now, you'd want to cover your eyes and nose because they literally are reprehensible when it comes to smell. You couldn't bathe them in enough soap. It's because of the nature of what they are. They're secreting a chemical that humans find offensive.
But aren't humans offensive to others?
Most definitely. Most definitely. Us and you, we're offensive to, we have a musk too, so do you. We're all offensive to some of the ETs out there as well. You guys are just all, and I'm not saying the nastier ETs, just the ones that are cordial and the ones that want to join you in the sunlight, basically. You all have to get along. You don't have to agree on anything if you don't want to. But you are on a collision course with the galactic community very quickly and very fervently. You must learn how to get along with each other, no matter what the politics say. You must get along with each other in order to get along with them.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Chad, I don't know if you have any last question at all?
No, I appreciate you touching on the unity thing, because that's the primary focus of Spirit Lake, is unity among species, galactically and locally. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I will detach now. I may or may not speak in the morning. Somebody else might do the honors at that time. But I enjoy this speech. I enjoy having this opportunity to talk. Others are this way as well. So we thank you, and Anhalam always. Oh yeah, it did get a little dim out here, didn't it? But yeah, that's interesting. I felt like I was getting fried halfway through this, but
Got pretty warm,
Chad,
didn't it?
it would get
It got
pretty
pretty
dark, and Chad would have to stoke the fire.
yeah, I got pretty warm there for a minute. I just felt the sweat beads going down my head there.
I was concerned about the camera melting.
Yeah, oh yeah, but
Seriously.
oh yeah, it should be fine. But yeah. So everybody, what you were seeing there is he had to keep bringing the light level back up, and I was basically sweating my butt off here. But it's actually felt kind of good because they actually liked that Segron, backed up a little bit when the fire was sitting because he's covered in hair. So it's like he's actually further back here, but yeah, he could feel the heat on me there. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of The World of Sasquatch. This is a part 2 of what you saw earlier of the Great Seeding, plus other materials about Atlantis and Lemuria. There's going to be some more expansions on this material, obviously, on gic.show, which is www.galacticintraversalconsortium.com. But also the main hub for all of this is generally thelifting.net, and also the newly activated theworldofsasquatch.com. So I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. I don't know if anybody has anything else to say before we close it.
No, it was great.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas of this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.